A lot of people wondering if we will actually get proper free higher education in this speech.
Well, we've introduced free higher education, but we began with first years last year, and it's primarily the poor and working class. And then I think for tonight, I'm really looking with quite a beaded eye at the big one, which is ESCOM, because all of us are impacted by energy. What I'm hoping for is President will tell us where we're going with ESCOM. Personally, I really dislike these bailouts. I think people who work in institutions must make their institutions work and make them efficient. So I'm keen to hear where we're going with that. And then the President spoke yesterday about inspiring the nation. I do think we need inspiration. I think we need a boost of confidence. You know, South Africans are fantastic people, but there's this sense that, we're not pushing ourselves hard enough and don't have that sense that we are go-getters and you do for yourself in order to succeed, So I'm hoping from the speech that some of that will come. And then, of course, we want to hear on reports of progress with what he promised last year. I'm glad a number of the issues that he spoke to have been addressed. Where we haven't moved as we should has been with the creation of jobs. This is a big concern for the constituency I work most closely with, which is young people. And so one wants to hear some, imaginative ideas about what we might do to invest in areas where young people would be taken up. I'm glad that government has taken a step toward ensuring that entry-level government jobs do take on young people who might not have work experience and hopefully commit to training them so that they can move up the ranks of the public service. So growth, jobs, addressing ongoing issues that are challenges to our country, including the issue of ethics and integrity, both in the public and private sectors. We have to rid our country of corruption. We have to introduce a new set of ethical norms because I think corruption is a very destructive thing. It diverts attention from core purpose. And so, I wish some of those would be addressed.
It's a long, and I think every issue on it is an important list. You talk about the feeling of not quite hopelessness, but sometimes I think maybe some people are heading that way. I mean, the evidence of that feeling that you speak of. There was a survey talking about how something like 66% or higher than that are actually feeling despondent about the country, feel the country's moving in the wrong direction. That points to leadership and a lack of direction. So you talk about inspiration. Do you think it's actually possible to inspire a country with as many different constituencies as South Africa to all move in one direction?
Well, you might not as an individual be able to inspire everyone, but I think you can give people a sense of hope. And in order to succeed, no one really can do it for you. So there has to be some sense of self-drive. And I think that's really what we need. The notion that there's someone out there who's going to do it for us is something that I think we need to really put behind us. Where a helping hand is needed, we all must be there. But it's your input into the process of change that makes the difference.
I must ask, if you don't mind, and give you an opportunity to respond to several things that have happened in your sphere in higher education. I mean, firstly, on Tuesday evening, the student who died, he was just 21 at the Durban University of Technology. A terrible thing to happen, a life cut short. It was during a protest. It was at the hands, allegedly, during a protest, during a scuffle with the campus security guards. That must trouble you deeply.
Oh, definitely. I just am terribly saddened by the death of this young man, and I wish to again express my condolences to his family. There's nothing more terrible than losing a young person, and I really urge all universities to ensure any security establishment they use has attention to ensuring that the means are not fatal, that they're not exacerbating the anger, the feeling that we're not responsive by using live ammunition and so on. And I think universities in employing such companies in a civil institution should try to ensure that such persons are trained in measures that don't require extreme force in order to address. But then again, we as the protesters must ensure we are not using bricks, we're not excessively, we're not violent, we're not burning down buildings, burning down property of staff, or indeed of the institution. So I think on all sides, really, there has to be a restraint. But the security establishment, I think, has to be dealt with very harshly.
There are also protests at WITS this afternoon, I understand. It seems that rubbish has been strewn, that there's been disruptions. I mean, we haven't actually officially started the academic year at most of these institutions. Do you think students need to take a breath, or do you think that the university management need to take a breath, or both sides?
Well, I understand they're talking, and I'm hoping out of the discussions, a resolution will emerge. I'm told that some of these students who were protesting at WITS today were individuals wearing masks on their faces. So I find the report quite worrying. And so I'm keen to know, were these actually registered students, and why did they feel that they needed to cover their faces in the way that has been suggested by a statement issued by the management of WITS this afternoon. So one begins to ask, is there some mischief out there rather than genuine issues that are being placed on the table by students?
And we've got the situation where, you know, students are literally, in some cases it seems, students are basically asking for accommodation. They've got nowhere to live. I mean, we've all heard the stories about the students living in the library, at WITS in particular. And yet it's not necessarily, or it hasn't been in the past, the responsibility of a university to house every student who's accepted.
There's no country in the world that does it, that provides housing for every student. You just cannot. We have some residence accommodation. Universities have indicated the size of that. We are involved in quite a significant build program to improve the availability of beds at our institutions, but this is a new infrastructure program. So I do think students must also help us by being reasonable. If you're a NSFAS beneficiary, we do provide some funding for you to either secure accommodation at the university or lease accommodation, which is approved by the university. So I am trying, Stephen, to understand what is actually happening and who's driving this and what is the actual intention. There are genuine concerns. These we must find a way of addressing. But the public of South Africa is already making more than 20 billion rands available to support students who are in financial need. And really to seek more than is being done within available public resources, of which there's a scarcity, I think is something that really we need to be quite cautious about. Having said that, doesn't mean I don't support genuine need, nor does it mean I don't believe we must address where real need exists.
Minister, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. The Minister of Higher Education there, Naledi Pandor. Our live coverage will continue, of course. We'll go back now to our studio in Johannesburg.